Being at
Well,
Cause he can share it with.
12:30, we'll call meeting to order of the EDA. I'll look for approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any discussions or questions?
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Before we move on, I just wanted to ask the board if they wanted to consider a late application to the EDA board seat.
I don't think it's a problem. Application's an application.
Sure.
You know.
Was there a
Okay.
posted deadline?
There was a deadline shared with the applicant, so they were aware of it.
I mean, we could make that note that it was after the application date, and if it comes
That
down.
was my question.
If it comes down to
Actually,
a.
did we have a date?
Yes.
Yeah,
You had said the
because-
28th, and that was what was emailed out and was on the packet when it was sent to the applicant, that's right.
So that I could
Yeah.
create the packet, because I can't do it the day of.
And that's in our rules as far as
It
applying.
was at the last meeting, right? When it was.
Yeah, so we'll approve those rules today,
So we'll approve the rules after the fact.
before the fact. It's fourth
Or
on our
should we vote
agenda,
now
and-
whether it's late or not?
and
Yeah.
fifth on our agenda is, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I printed the copies off, so I could pass those out if it's something you want to consider.
I think Tom indicated he was open to considering a late one when
Mhm.
he emailed us this morning, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever, but I don't know. It doesn't make, I mean, for me, it isn't like a, I don't know, yeah, I think it's worth making note of, but it doesn't, I don't know, in my mind, it's not a life or death thing, but I do understand that it creates it definitely creates an inconvenience, and, in terms of the actual content or competitiveness of the application, I think that should be noted.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I'm more of a guideline guy myself,
Mhm.
but, I understand it's a volunteer position, so.
So I don't think we need a vote or anything, I'll just, if you want to take one, pass it down. Okay.
That's
Do you have
already-
one?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we'll move on to our tax abatement agreement for the Elite Marketing Investments LLC.
Mhm.
We'll open the public hearing for it.
All right, motion to open public hearing.
Is there any comment from the public? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And we'll go to your memo next.
Yeah, so Tim and I worked on this with Joe Lonzo of Elite Marketing and Investments LLC. I think we got it pared down to where it's at a point where he was happy to sign it, if the EDA board approves it, and we've got, the stipulations that will help define the agreement moving forward if any other instances like what happened in the past came up.
Okay.
So Joe's good with this, that we
Yeah.
got here? I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries to approve the tax abatement. Next will be our EDA Policy and Procedures 2020. We will open the public hearing. Any input?
Sorry.
Did anybody mail anything in or email in?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move to the internal discussion.
Yeah, so this just, we discussed this at the last meeting, so now it's up for approval. The only addition since then was the requirements for somebody to sit on the EDA board seat, whether they do business or live in Casson. So that's the only change from the last meeting.
What page is that on?
The section starts on 4, but the text is on page 5.
Is there any discussion from the board?
I mean, I think if it's more or less the same as what we looked at before, I think looks good. I mean, from when I read it previously, are we looking for a motion to recommend approval to the city council?
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that, or do you have a question?
I have a question as far as applying for the seat. When do the terms expire?
It's a 6-year.
6-year term,
6-year term.
so every time. And every term expires at a different time.
Okay.
But it's like follows a calendar year?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that what you're wondering?
Pretty sure it follows the
So
calendar.
they're all on different,
Yep, just be due to when the seat came open and got
because
filled.
this year we have 2 seats. So they'll both be on the same time frame.
So
The
which,
one seat.
just the one seat right now?
Oh, I thought we had 2.
No,
No, just one.
We just have 1. Okay, that's
Yep.
maybe where I'm confused.
Okay.
I was sure that somebody said we had 2, sorry. Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions or discussions?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval for the revisions to the city council.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Number 5, EDA board seat.
Okay, so we've got 3 applications now. So I guess the request of the EDA board is to review, have a discussion on candidates, and then ultimately make a recommendation to the mayor to appoint your recommended candidate to the EDA board seat. And then after the fact, I'll get in touch with the candidate, let them know that they've been selected, get the not contract, but the
Both of us. Both of us.
yes, oath of office signed, and then I'll set up a time to, bring them up to speed on the EDA and our activities. So we've got 3 applications: Matt Nelson, Nancy Peterson, and John Buckingham.
I mean, I'll just start off by saying, I guess I'm really pleased to have three applicants, and I think all 3 offer, different strengths and come with totally different expertise and background. So I think that's great. I have open and active business with more than 1 applicant, so I'm gonna abstain from the vote. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Well, do we have any discussions or any?
Are we filling out a position, or was his position done?
His position was done.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's a 6-year
So
term.
it is the 6 years, okay.
Yep.
How long ago was Matt Nelson on the council references that in here?
Oh,
I looked it up today, 2012, I think, was when he came off in that election cycle.
Okay.
But he's more recently the mayor than he was council, correct?
for a few months.
For a few months.
2013.
13,
13.
sounds right.
14.
Something like that was.
He was mayor for a few months?
14.
Yeah.
Tim Joseph went to
Be a county commissioner.
commissioner, and
I see.
he took over for Fest of 14.
Filled in.
Oh, okay.
His 14's when Steve got elected that.
In November, yep, so he
Yeah.
was started at
Yep.
14.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Bringing that up for a vote, no.
Yeah, and I guess if you guys have more comments, you can add comments.
Otherwise.
I have no comment.
They're looking for a recommendation first, or an idea of who you'd want, or,
If you're looking for a nomination.
yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Not just sheer vote, not raise a hand, looking for a nomination first.
Well,
Go from there.
you can either, we can go nomination, or we can do a vote, we can do a silent vote, open vote, however you like. You know, if you want, everybody wants to pass a piece of paper, write their top one and the top two, and then we can count it from there, or you can just put only one vote. How would you like to do it?
Let's keep it simple,
Thank you.
my opinion anyway.
I'm all about this.
I'm gonna be like Tom, I mean, I'll have input if I need to have input, but you're gonna be giving this to me to take to council. So I don't wanna have any influence on that, I want this body to make that decision, to take to council, I think that's fair. So I think you just need somebody that has the conviction to say, I nominate person X, and then let the group vote on
I'm
it.
gonna count, 1, 2,
There'll be 4
3,
votes.
4 votes.
So that's,
I'm for 4 pieces of paper to start with.
okay.
You can get those.
We have notepads.
Lots of them.
Oh,
We
come on, you gotta
tear 'em in
tear that
half.
in 4 pieces, don't waste
I
4 pieces
know,
of paper.
what are you doing?
I'm abstaining.
Doesn't work for the public sector long enough.
Mike
So we
got
got
a little chair
4?
on the corner, he's got the hanging chat over here,
Yeah.
the dangling chat.
Great. There's the chat.
Now, why don't you have everybody do it, and I'll just count them up. That would be.
And then put up your number 1 and then your number 2, or?
Well, I
Or-
think it probably would make sense just to pick your top pick and
Top
then.
We only get one of that.
Alright.
Yeah, I would just leave it at that, I mean, if we have a tie, we can try it again, how about that?
You don't wanna look for motions on runoff election procedures?
Not yet,
No, we do not wanna go there.
No, do not.
Listen,
It'll be.
you have to
you know it's
abstain
good.
from here, don't be giving your opinion.
You want honor super.
Yeah, we don't have a tie, this one.
Okay, we had 3-1 for
Oh.
Matt Nelson, so, looks like that's the way it would go.
So, as the board will make a recommendation to the city council to appoint Matt Nelson to the EDA. We will take that forward, Chris.
Put it on the next agenda.
Thank you. So,
Okay.
next we will move on to our business facade improvement program.
Okay, so there are kind of 2 components to this. The reimbursement for Erdman's and the 2020 facade improvement program. So to start with the reimbursement, Erdman's has submitted their requests. They've completed their project to replace the canopy. The total project cost was $42,500. Request for reimbursement is $2,000. You can see the, paid receipt and then also photos of the completed project.
It does look really
It looks
nice.
really good.
I didn't believe how old the old one looks old, how you put the new one there. So, well, I would, make a motion to reimburse that $2,000.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you.
Okay, and the 2020 facade improvement program, the overall guidelines are the exact same as 2019. We budgeted $20,000 for commercial programs in 2020, but based on the activity and the level of fund allocations in the 2019 program, I think we could probably start with 10, see how that goes. And then, you know, if the program is really popular and successful this year, we can always allocate additional funds. Any questions or?
What would that 10,000 be out there for possible use for?
Well, perhaps this program, the revolving loan fund, it could be allocated towards that. Other programs that the EDA comes up with.
Yeah, if we decided to try out an additional program, we could do that.
We just have more flexibility with it.
Wouldn't be dedicated just to this program in case
Yeah.
something else comes up. We could always put it in this program later if we want.
If need be,
Yeah, but
it's just-
nobody has any thoughts of what it could be applied to, or they want it applied to at this point.
I think I would lean toward if we have somebody come in for a revolving loan, now we've got something we can work with. Or if we dedicate it just to the facade, then we'd have to,
We don't have revolving loans.
there's zero in there right now.
We've got
Oh, I thought we
20,000.
were-
20,000.
Oh,
Give
okay.
us more, give us more
But it'd give us
ammunition there
more.
if we needed.
Yeah, right.
Have some flexibility which way to go with it. Or if there's some other program that somebody can come up with, or there's a need for, we've got the ammunition for it.
How much did we spend on it? What was our first year?
$4,232 or
No, we allocated $9,847.50
Okay.
last year. Some of that hasn't been paid out yet because the
Oh.
projects haven't been completed. But overall, that's what we would expect the cost of last year's program to be.
And we're not hoping that that is going to improve or
I mean,
expand or
that'd be great if it did.
get more popular?
We are, but we're still leaving the possibility we can add it later, you can't,
Yeah.
you don't wanna.
But you can spend it sometimes before.
You
that
can,
comes
I mean,
up.
that's the chance of,
Yeah.
but you don't wanna tie it up into a fund and then nobody uses
Right.
it, and now you try to take it back for something else, it's just,
Yeah,
we got a lot more flexibility this way.
okay.
Yeah, I will say, I think I've talked with two different folks that I think sounds like could very well have interest in this coming year.
Nice.
So I mean, I think having at least, yeah, putting the 10,000 in there is a good starting point. You know, a year ago, you know, we had talked about a few other program ideas in addition to this one. I don't know if we wanna, revisit any of those. I know we had talked about starting here and then considering, potentially looking at some of the other programs we discussed. But I think the flexibility is good, and I think if it comes up that whether or not we should spend the 10,000, I mean, I think, you know, then we need to have you to remind us to be disciplined.
Don't be spending that.
Yeah, don't be spending that money, willy-nilly, so I mean, I think holding it in reserve, in case there is some other program we decide we want to take a crack at.
I'm just hoping that it grows, because,
Yeah.
you know, we were just beginning
Mhm.
last year, and we spent, what, a couple $100, less than 10,000, and now you're saying we wanna leave 10,000 in the program. So there's no room for growth there, so to speak. But, as long as it's available, you know.
Yeah, it'll be available.
Does the 10 from the previous year carry over? And we're adding 10 to it, or we're just saying 10 total?
10 total for 2020.
Okay.
Last year's is already budgeted for and
Gotcha.
allocated.
Okay.
The program was open the whole year of 19?
Yeah.
It was. It wasn't mid-year, that was,
Right.
it was all year? Okay.
So do we need to vote on that?
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? If not, I'll take a motion to do the 2020 business facade improvement program and allocate $10,000 of our funding towards it for.
I'll make a motion that we allocate 10,000 to the facade improvement program and hold another 10,000 in, cash reserves.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So, next, we will move on to our strategic planning discussion.
Yeah, so, I guess, you guys can hold a discussion, we can work through this sheet. I only got one response back, from what I sent out, so maybe it's a little easier to just talk about it now. And also I've included some programs that, Tim has brought up that I think the EDA could consider. I added, some studies, also I emailed those out to you, just to provide context to the economic trends in our region. And I guess ultimately what I'd like to do, and Tim and I have talked about this, is after the meeting, I'll send an email requesting that each board member rank their top 5 priorities for the EDA. And from that list, we'll be able to identify the top priority overall and set up, a 1-year project plan, a 2-year project plan, and a 5-year project plan for goals to accomplish with the EDA. And so that's kind of where ultimately we'd like to lead this to. So, I guess it's up to you how much you wanna discuss this worksheet.
Well, and I think we expect this process to take more than obviously just today. It may take
Mhm.
the rest of the year, frankly, just because, some of these things like what's your vision, we can't give short shrift to that. We wanna kind of flesh it out and knowing what resources we have too, what we have to work with.
Mhm.
You know some of the financial stuff, but, properties, things like that could be utilized for wherever you wanna go. I think it's important that, cause we only have an hour a month where we all get together, is to at least start this in-person conversation and then give Nicholas the opportunity to kind of compile all that information, bring it back to us and say, okay, well, 3 people said this was number 1, and 2 people said this was number 1, and then that gives him an idea of, okay, what should I be spending my time on, if housing or, business retention or whatever it is, we can prioritize that way, and that makes it a little bit more thorough for us all.
Yeah, with those 5 priorities, that gives us something concrete to bring to the meeting, as opposed to what this would be a fairly open-ended discussion today. But, next month, hopefully, something more concrete to discuss, the board can see where everybody else is, their thinking is, and.
Well, definitely part of what I see for a vision is, we do need more housing of all levels.
Mhm.
Multiplexes, whatever it be, we need apartments, whatever. How we get there, I don't know. Another thing too is we wanna retain the businesses we have and help them,
Mhm.
plus we also want to attract more business.
Yeah.
And find the proper spot for them, and, that's just something right off the top of my head that we definitely need.
Well,
Working
part
on
of-
it is hard.
Yeah, part of that conversation, and part of the reason I had Nicholas include this, partial report that was done by Southeastern Minnesota earlier, Dutch County portion, is kind of trying to find some of those leakages you have in the community. Things that are leaking out, or things that
Mhm.
you might have a good example might be like auto body, or auto sales, or something like that, where they say, well, the city the size of Casson probably could support X number of auto sales a year. Now, most of those auto sales are going to Rochester, but the point is that you could support that type of industry, because you're absolutely right, we wanna attract business. Well, which ones are the ones we really need to attract,
Mhm.
which ones that will be nice niche fillers for us is another good question to be asking.
And we gotta make sure that if we do attract them, that we can help them maintain and stay,
Support,
you know,
exactly,
support 'em.
right, right.
You know, that's the hard part.
Right.
The makeup of this town is, we're a bedroom community per se, but yet we're trying to make it so we can keep it, people.
Keep 'em here.
So it's not gonna happen overnight, it's gonna be a process, and that's what I see.
Mhm.
So maybe you wanna just take them through the worksheet.
Sure. So, I guess, question number one is, what is your vision for the city of Castleton? And we don't have to go through, you know, the 1, the 5, and the 15-year, but, you know, I guess, just in general, like, what are your visions for the city of Castleton?
What I get all the time in my line of work is half the population wants that small town feel,
Mhm.
and the other half, which is the growing half, wants everything that Rochester has, condensed version usually. So making both sides happy is you know, an ongoing struggle.
Oh, yeah.
Good challenge to have though. Growth, managed growth is better than
No growth.
fighting no growth, right? So that's what I see as important to a lot of people that I talk to.
Yeah, you're gonna have varying opinions and.
Well, I've been in town 51 years, and there's people longer than that you know, still want and I do too. I want the small town, 'cause that's the town I grew up in, but it's nice to have the conveniences, so.
What people do you talk to that wanna have us be Rochester?
Usually it's the younger couples younger families, I should say, that are moving into town. You know, and predominantly they're moving into town, not all of them, but the school district brings a lot of them in. So whether they're coming from a bigger market than even Rochester or Rochester, you know, they like all the conveniences, but they like them to be real close to them. Most of the people commute to Rochester, you know, so they can either do it on their way in or way out. But, you know,
But even in Rochester, you have the small little areas.
you do.
You know, that's why you have 2 targets, that's why you
Yeah,
have,
for sure.
you know, so that's, I don't see how that's even,
I think it's not so much like the
feasible.
urban development of Rochester, but just the amount of amenities that exist in
Yeah.
that city, you know, per the population, is
And-
probably not the same as it is in Castleton.
Maybe we should list the amenities that we have in Casson.
Yeah?
Compared to Rochester, because I think we have them all here.
Well,
We have
yeah,
to see it.
if you look at that
The only thing
worksheet,
we
you're-
don't have is car sales.
Yeah, you look at the
No, we're
worksheet.
missing
and
a couple
then-
other things.
Yeah, you look at the worksheet, I mean, that is some of the SWOT analysis at the bottom half of that worksheet. You know, it says, what are strengths for economic development, what are some weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? So you're exactly right, like, you know, listing, like, okay, you know, you do have a movie theater, you know, which is something that a lot of people, whether they ever go there or not, say, oh, that's good to have that. You know, it's good to have, so that's a, you know, that's a nice thing to have in a small town, you know. Bowling alley, well, you know, do you have a bowling, you know, so yeah, you can definitely go through that, but I think this whole, is to sort of start that conversation of, okay, where really are we at? And what should we be going out and trying to attract? You know, we know that the big businesses we're never gonna get, because it just isn't feasible, and we don't have the workforce, frankly, to support them even, you know what I mean? That's something you run into now with unemployment being extremely low, is even if you want, you know, even if you could get a big factory, you couldn't pay people enough to live, you know, to live and work here, so you gotta be realistic, but I mean, that's a good point, is doing kind of that analysis for sure, so.
Maybe we can rely on our comprehensive plan that we just did over the last 2 years too, that gives us a lot of this information, exactly what is the citizens' feedback, and
Yeah.
there's some pretty specific things on there, what they want to see or not see.
Sure, well, from a structural perspective, absolutely, you know, in terms of road infrastructures and things like that, you know, from our comp plan, we kind of have an idea of what, and where we might be looking at the growth corridors. Yeah, I'm not sure if that got into the specific details of exactly what kind of businesses and that sort of thing we wanted to attract.
There was
but-
some wish lists.
Sure, wish list, yeah, right, which is.
Fits in there.
Wasn't there a study done, Bruce Schwartau, U of M?
He did
Yeah.
some stuff years ago.
Was that quite a while ago?
And then we did the retail study for a year with
Right.
Buxton.
Right.
We still have all that information. You know, the conundrum that we have is, you know, we have a small town atmosphere, which is fantastic, and the majority of the people want or enjoy that, or say they want that. They also want the amenities, but, you know, we aren't a very inexpensive place to live.
Right.
So, the conundrums of towns that our size are, you know, it's not an inexpensive place. Our taxes aren't the lowest in southern Minnesota. So, but, you get to a certain size, we've got infrastructure that's 30, 40, 50, 60 years old that now has to be replaced. So we need growth to help pay for that. Otherwise, it's too expensive for just the tax base we have. So there's the chicken and the egg, the cart and the horse, the whole conversation. We need more growth to help pay for the infrastructure upgrades. But yet, until you upgrade the infrastructure and the plan for infrastructure, it's tough to get meaningful growth on the commercial side, especially because we're so commercial poor
Yeah.
on real estate that anything we do goes right on the homeowners. We don't have that big anchor business or two. Our neighbors to the west in Dodge Center, they've got 2 or 3 bigger businesses. They soak up 60–70% of all of the referendums and levies and taxes in town. So, you know, the controlled growth in the right way, and then making sure that, you know, this body, just like we're holding planning and zoning a little more accountable, that if that's the zoning, we're putting in the retaining pond. We're not just gonna build it because we want the growth. We're gonna have to do it the right way to ensure
protect our
future
future.
growth for the future.
Well, and that gives us an opportunity to find some of those resources too. I mean, a good example is, the property the city owns to the, sort of the southwest side of town. You know, if that was an area where you said, hey, we do need a business park, you know, we wanna expand commercial, you know, if that's what they wanted to use that property for, now I'm not saying it is, but if that's what you decide you wanna do, you can go to the state and say, okay, we have these potential businesses, we'd like to go for a business park improvement, you know, EDPI grant. You know, and they'll pay for a significant percentage of your infrastructure, your water, your sewer, your road, and, you know, construction, things like that. But so, yeah, I mean, that's just making sure that, you know, Nicholas knows, okay, where are we going, what do we wanna use this property for? Or if it's housing, you know, do we open it up for some kind of a mixed-use housing or something like that? I don't know, I mean, it's just a matter of that information being built up, I guess.
So if I'm the guy that responded, what did I write?
I don't remember, I wrote it down. You responded almost immediately.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since I looked at it.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe you had, I didn't bring it with me, but,
Now you know what it was written on.
Right. I mean, I think, what I would type on it now is that, I mean, I think that we want to maintain a healthy and strategic community growth pattern, both on the residential and the commercial sides, but, while maintaining kind of like that unique Casson feel and respecting kind of like the baseline of heritage that we have that makes Casson, while we do it. So basically, growing in a healthy and smart manner while kind of respecting what it is that makes us Casson would be kind of my vision, I guess, for
And
however
you know,
many years you want to put up
what
there.
does this mean necessarily for Main Street, you know, how does the EDA?
What is Main Street?
Can I just interrupt? I have to get back to the office quick, because
Okay.
my meeting time changed,
Yeah,
I couldn't change
I
the appointment.
know what you're saying.
But I think,
That
from
was
my opinion, when I read through this,
reminder.
you know, I think about things all night when I don't sleep. The most important question, I think, for this group, for what we do once a month for an hour, is number 2 at top. What's the role of the EDA in all this? Because we could sit here and plan for the city in the big grand scheme. You know, we've got the comp plan with our growth plans in there, we either tweak off that every year, it's a moving, living thing, but what's the role of this group of 7 people to play in that?
So maybe I'll send out that
And I've
email
gotta go
for
to
the
bed.
5 priorities,
Chris.
but also
Bye, Chris.
ask the question, what do you think the role of the Casson EDA is in addressing those top 5 priorities?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a really good way to move the discussion along, and, yeah, I don't know if we need to keep discussing, or if we can move on.
Yeah,
to
why don't we
other
give some
items.
time to folks here to think about it?
Think about it and
Yeah, I mean, I'll.
mull over it and
Well,
come
I
up
mean,
with ideas.
Yeah.
I'll say, like, I've thought about that question with EDAs and understanding what is the role of an EDA in the community, you know, for quite a while, and I guess I tend to be less of a market steerer, you know, where, you know, sometimes we'll try to map out, you know, this is exactly where we wanna see the development and exactly what type of development. It's to me, that seems a little bit more of like a, it's a comp plan, but it's also kind of like a playing baseball to hit all home runs, is kind of the mindset. And I tend to have a little bit more of a small ball mentality in that I see us as, the market ultimately is going to drive a lot of its own decision-making, but we want to make sure that we maximize whatever opportunities or whatever projects come up to the as much benefit as we can get to the community of Casson as possible. So for example, if we have basically a business development opportunity that comes up in that southwest part of town, using a BDPI grant to minimize the local tax dollars by spreading it out with state funding, and then, you know, potentially using like a TIF structure to you know, spread out as opposed to front loading some of those expenses so that we don't necessarily drive up our levy in the short term. That's going to be a way of maximizing some of that benefit, you know, of a market-driven project. But, you know, I just think about, I had a conversation a few years ago over in Byron with their administrator, and, you know, I'd ask, you know, why is City Hall back where it is? You know, I've always been curious, you know, it's just kinda like back by, you know, a little bit by itself, and then there's like that really nice strip mall thing. You know, and my understanding was like that, I don't know if it's their most current version of the comp plan or a version ago, but the goal was to have a lot of the commercial development in that particular area and move it away from you know, and kinda start moving that direction as a community as opposed to along Highway 14. The market, for better or for worse, decided ultimately to buy up property along Highway 14, probably for market exposure, and developed over there. And the development, while it's been beginning to roll in that back part of Byron, I don't think that quite happened in the order they were anticipating. And so, you know, it's kind of a question of like, do things go to plan, you know, when you're the EDA board, you know, or is it better to try and concentrate our efforts and funds towards maximizing opportunities as they come? So, I don't know, I tend to be a little bit more the latter, but that's my thought.
Well, I think part of our job on the board is to make sure that when businesses come to town, we can do what we can do to help them with what we have, be it tax abatement, TIF, help them understand.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it. And
a lot of times businesses don't know what's available to them.
Yep, and I was just gonna say, make sure we,
as far as grants or,
yep,
you know,
get
TIF
information
or,
out to them.
you know, whatever. They just don't know. And it's really, speaking as somebody who has businesses who would like to come here sometimes, it's kind of a secret. You know, oh, you know, well, so-and-so knows, but they won't share it with so-and-so.
Oh.
So, you know, it is, I think we need to be, I think we need to advertise a little bit more. We have this, you know, we will help you get grants. These grants are available. Let us try to
Help
push
you.
you in that direction.
Yep. And then hopefully, the more we get that out there, more businesses that are looking to start a business or move here will know to come see us and work with us.
Yeah, I think there must be more, I think we should do more, I'm really not computer, but I think we should do more, advertising, social media stuff. I can remember, to this day, I think Blue Earth has got one of the best, sales come to our city. No, not Blue Earth.
Oh, yeah, Blue Earth does. Blue Earth, they spent $25,000 and hired a marketing firm last year to do it.
Okay.
So, which was what we ended up doing, because they said
Are you
exactly.
from Blue Earth?
I just
No.
got done working there, but.
Oh, that's where you came from.
Yeah. But anyway, so I mean, you know, but marketing was something that the community wanted to do, because they said, we have all these good resources, we wanna highlight them, let's put up billboards, let's actually advertise on the radio, on the TV, and online. So, I mean, if you go to the city website now, you can see the web ad that was created, and, so that's definitely something, you know, it sounds like marketing the community is invaluable. You know, and I think that certainly is a possibility to consider for the EDA, you know, because you do have limited funds, let's prioritize them on what's most valuable
Yeah.
to you as a board.
I'm telling you, it's not been that long ago that I was at the cleaners in Rochester, and they said it'll be done on Tuesday, and I'm going, okay, I'll be back in about 10 days, so I'll pick it up there, and she said, where do you live? And I said, Casson, and she said, where's that?
Sure.
You know, there's amazingly.
Well, there's so many new
lots of
people in the Rochester area.
Yeah.
You put Manorville behind it, there's a little more recognition.
Yeah.
If you
it
say
might
Casson
be
Manorville, they go,
Casson
oh.
Manorville, yeah.
But Casson sometimes gets
Yeah.
people.
And part of that is the Cass Maryville School.
Yes,
So
it
Yeah.
is.
everybody,
Or we've hooked our
Double hook.
wagon onto Manorville,
Double hook.
so there.
All right,
We need to get
well,
out front.
do we wanna look at sending out some ideas and then
Yeah, so I
working
think-
on that question more as a board and?
I will send out those 2 questions with the 5 priorities, the role of the EDA in addressing those priorities, and I'll also attach the minutes, you know, with all of this discussion too, so you can review that
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
yeah, remind yourselves what was discussed.
Perfect. Next, dumpster program?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
no?
that's part of our strategic planning and more of a funding apparatus that we utilized in Blue Earth, so we don't want to belabor that today.
It was
Okay.
just a discussion item.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point I brought up, you know, I'm always looking at trying to add resources into the EDA, and it's a program that they did in Blue Earth, so we could talk about
So,
that another time.
then we can
Yeah,
read through
It's mostly
again and-
just the creation of a funding, a separate funding mechanism for the
Okay.
EDA too.
Or, I'm sorry, I'm really curious, just 'cause of the name, like, what is it?
Is it like for the
Right here, oh, I went past
We
it.
went past it.
parks and?
It's actually,
What is it for?
I've
So-
read on it, I like it.
Yeah, so what they did there was, I'll explain as long as we're talking about it a little time. Basically, the city sponsored this program, and what it meant was that residents who had active utility accounts, every year they could get what we called a free dumpster. Well, it really wasn't a free dumpster because they paid $2 a month on their utility bill for it, but it did mean that they got to use this dumpster for, you know, for $24 for the year, you know. And the way that worked was, you know, we only had a finite number of dumps that were possible during the year. So, you know, if you have 4 dumpsters times 52 weeks a year, you know, you've got 208. Well, we calculated out how much would be max, you know, how much would have been max cost of the program. That's how we got the $2 a utility bill, and then that generated revenue in excess of what was needed for the program's funding. That revenue in excess of cost was used to help fund the EDA. So it was just an alternative means of creating a recurring revenue based stream for the EDA.
Yeah, that first come, first serve.
Right.
You had to get your name on the list.
I mean,
if
it
you
served a
wanted.
couple different purposes. One was the income generation for the EDA. A second aspect was that it helped, especially some of the elderly residents who were like, I need to get a, you know, my garage or my basement cleared out.
Or apartments or townhomes.
Or apartments or townhomes or whoever, you know, it was something in that community that they felt like was helpful to them because it helped clean up properties. You know, so it served kind of that blight reduction goal as well. You know, that was one of their goals, the EDA had set, we wanna reduce blight. We wanna tear out old buildings, we wanna tear down houses, you know. So, it kind of had a multi-fold, you know, implementation. But just brought it up as an idea, because I know that we, you know, we need to be funding as much as we can, and the city council has limited resources with which to, you know, to do that. So if the EDA can create some of its own revenue streams, I think it makes sense.
Did you not have like we have the Dodge County landfill, or?
No, they had landfills.
Oh.
Some people don't have the.
I mean, if you don't have a truck, if you're a 85-year-old, you know, widower living at
Did they
home.
bring that dumpster to your house?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people
A
put it
roll-off
right
dumpster.
in your, it'd be in your driveway
And you
or
could use it for
whatever.
the week, if you were doing a remodel, or if you're just cleaning out.
Right.
It would've been really popular probably last summer after the flood.
Mhm.
But,
Oh,
you know,
my.
and then the thing I had brought up,
That's why it was free out to the Dodge County.
the other thing I had brought up about that, is sometimes it's not necessarily do we need a dumpster, maybe it's, for them, we need groups that would volunteer their manpower for us, you know, a
Mhm.
donation back towards the
Yeah.
union. Cause that is actually what some people need more than the dumpster. They actually need
The physical help.
the physical labor.
Right.
But then there's the liabilities of that, so that's, let's not go there now. So we shall, are we moving on then to invoices?
Yeah. So these are the two invoices, for the two public hearings today. Total is $50.70. The request would be that you approve the reimbursement to the Dodge County Independent.
So we're just looking for a motion in a second.
Make a motion to approve. Excuse me.
We have a motion in a second. Any other discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. And then coordinators report.
Okay, so I'll try to move quickly through this. I toured Ken Keller's property, the old Images building. That was really good to see, so in case, I ever get in touch with a business that's looking for a space like that, I know, exactly where to point them to. Spoke with Joe Alonzo to work through the tax abatement agreement. I'm working with Brandon Theobald on the Trail Connections grant, so we're just right now working through whether there are additions to be made to that grant application. I met with Scott Stroh. He's starting up the Chaotic Good Brewing Company, just to tell him about our revolving loan fund program, because he might make use of that to help build this facility for the brewery. I met with Jamie Schwickerath, the Southeast Service Cooperative, Cassie Manderville Career Navigator. I spoke about Future Forward at the last meeting. I can't stress enough, I think this is a really great tool. Check it out if you haven't. They're gonna start piloting it with a couple students at the end of this academic year, and then they'll have a full rollout at the next year. And when we have a little more time, I can, if you have any questions, you can get in touch with me. I can give you Jamie's contact information.
You get his website on there too.
Yep. So, EDA page, and Dodge County Board of Commissioners, an update. Adalberto Guzman's revolving loan fund application was approved. So we're sorting out the closing. That should be wrapped up this week, and hopefully we'll have more information moving forward on when to expect this business to move in and get operating in the Jimmy's Pizza building space. EDA page, that kind of builds on what Janice was talking about. How do we advertise our resources to businesses? And I think the web page is, a really big component for that. So I'm going to start compiling things that will eventually add on to the EDA page for our website. Strategic plan, we discussed that. Local Trail Connections, went through that. A letter of support for the Casson Manorville Public Schools. They had a March 1st deadline for their grant, and this grant is a Rural Career and Technical Education Consortium grant. And the grant is to bring industrial tech classes to their middle school level so that they can have more advanced industrial tech classes at the high school level. So Tim and I just drafted up a letter of support, and we sent that to them. It's also on the very last pages of this if you'd like to check it out. I've also added the community grants bulletin, in case there's anything you see that piques your mind. I did send you the digital versions that you can click on them and expand them to the actual grant landing pages. That just about does it for the coordinator's report.
Okay, thank you. Any other business the board has? No? Items for April EDA meeting?
Strategic planning.
Strategic planning, welcome our new board member. Other than that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody, and thank you for working around the time change. I appreciate that.
Did you go?
Yes.
How was it?
Sad.
Yeah, oh.
Sad, sad, sad.
It's so sad.
Sits back for the entire day.
Nicole.
It was